So today we're going to talk about a pandemic, but I guarantee it's not the one you're thinking of. Not the one that showed up with a spike protein and sent the whole world into a panic. No, we need to talk about the other one. If I were to ask you right now to name humanity's deadliest pandemic, your mind would probably jump straight to the last few years, right? But that's not it. The deadliest one isn't some big explosion. It's a slow, quiet, relentless predator that's been stalking us for centuries. We tend to think of a crisis as this sudden, sharp break from normal life. But this pandemic is different. It's not an explosion. It's more like a slow, grinding weight that has been with us for literally millennia. And the scale of this thing, it's almost impossible to get your head around. Get this, by one estimate, this single infectious disease has killed 1 out of every 7 human beings who has ever lived. 1 in 7. Just let that sink in for a second. The culprit is tuberculosis, or TB. Just last year, in 2023, it killed 1.25 million people. It has reclaimed its ancient title as our deadliest infectious disease, killing more people than malaria, typhoid, and war combined. So that begs the question, right? Why on earth don't we treat it like the ongoing global crisis it so clearly is? Well, that brings us to the central and frankly maddening paradox at the very heart of the TB story. Okay, here it is. This disease has been curable since the 1950s. That means the death of every single one of those 1.25 million people last year was completely preventable. We already know how to live in a world where nobody dies of tuberculosis. We just choose not to. As author and advocate John Green puts it so perfectly, this isn't a story about a failure of medicine. It's a story about a failure of will. It's about an illness that just follows the paths of injustice and inequality that we ourselves have carved into the world. To really understand this failure of will, you have to look at how we've told the story of this disease, how its very meaning has been twisted over time to serve the people in power. You see, back in the 19th century, it was called consumption, and believe it or not, it was actually romanticized. Yeah, it was seen as this disease of the brilliant, the beautiful, a sign of some kind of tragic genius. Lord Byron famously said he wished he would die of consumption so that women would say, "See that poor Byron, how interesting he looks in dying." I mean, what? But then came the pivot. In 1882, a scientist named Robert Koch identified the bacterium. It was an infection, not some inherited trait. And almost overnight, the romantic disease of consumption died, and the horrifying stigmatized disease of tuberculosis was born. An illness of filth, of poverty, of moral decay used to justify the social order of the day. And this architecture of injustice isn't just some abstract historical idea. It has a human face, and that face belongs to a young man from Sierra Leone named Henry. Henry's fight with multi-drug-resistant TB led him to a place called Laka Government Hospital. It was a former leprosy colony with a terrifying reputation. As another patient put it, Laka is the place you go to die. You go in and you do not come out. He was put on this brutal cocktail of toxic antibiotics that literally destroyed his hearing in one ear, and still the disease was winning. This moment just captures the absolute desperation. Henry's heartbroken father demanded to take his son home to die, but the hospital's new doctor, Dr. Guerin, made this incredible plea. He swore he could save Henry with a new drug regimen, telling the father, "Come and beat me later if this fails." It was a total Hail Mary, a bet on a future that seemed absolutely impossible. The thing is, Henry's suffering wasn't inevitable. It was manufactured. It was built by the modern systems of neglect that keep the TB crisis going to this day. And this neglect, it's really built on 3 core failures. First, there's the tyranny of bad math, this obsession with cost-effectiveness that makes us prefer cheap, inaccurate tests. Second, you've got the brutal logic of the market, where corporate profits are consistently put before human lives. And third, a paternalistic mindset of control over care, which treats patients like problems to be managed, not people to be healed. This brutal market logic isn't just some theory. Look at the Gene Expert test. The cartridges cost less than $5 to make, but were sold to poor countries for nearly 10. Or the drug biloxolone. It was developed with public funds, but its price was kept artificially high for years through legal tricks with patents, forcing patients like Henry onto those toxic, hearing-destroying alternatives. But, despair never tells the whole human story. These vicious cycles of poverty and disease, they're powerful, for sure. But virtuous cycles of activism and care, they're possible too. And this is how that virtuous cycle works. It's amazing. Back in the 90s, an organization called Partners in Health defined global policy and proved multi-drug-resistant TB could be cured in poor communities. Their success helped activists like Famessa Taleli in South Africa survive her own battle with TB. Famessa then fought to break the patent on that life-saving drug bedaquiline, and its price crashed. And that activism is what made the drug affordable enough for Dr. Garoom to get it to Henry's bedside in Sierra Leone. It's one act of care echoing across decades and continents. So this brings us to the most important point of all. We have a clear, actionable plan to end this epidemic for good. It was developed by TV activists and researchers, and it's a pretty simple three-step strategy. Search, treat, and prevent. You actively go find cases before people get desperately sick, you treat them with the best modern medicines we have, and you prevent the spread by offering therapy to their close contacts. This isn't a fantasy. It's a proven plan that works. The cost? About $25 billion a year globally. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of money, but it's a tiny fraction of what the world spends on, say, military budgets. But the return on that investment would be absolutely staggering. Studies show that for every dollar we spend, we generate over $40 in economic benefits. This isn't charity, it's one of the best investments humanity could possibly make. And all of this leads to a pretty profound and difficult conclusion. In the 21st century, the primary cause of death from tuberculosis isn't the bacteria. We know how to kill it. The cause is us. It's our flawed economic models, our unjust laws, and our deep systemic failure to see the humanity of the poor. Henry survived. Today, he's a thriving university student and a TB activist himself. His survival wasn't a miracle. It was the result of a choice made by people who decided he deserved to live. We now face that same choice, but on a global scale. So, the real question isn't whether we can end TB, it's whether we will. If we are the cause, can we also be the cure?